Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you. I've been asked to introduce this event. It's my pleasure to do so. It involves two of our esteemed members of the Bard community, Bill T. Jones, whom I'm pleased to say is a new member of our, now in his second season, in his collaboration with our dance program, and it's a pleasure to have him and members of his company with us in the college. You'll see a piece of his, which is called Floating the Tongue, and after that, both Bill T. Jones and Roger Berkowitz who is the director of the Hannah Arendt Center and associate professor of politics and a distinguished political theorist, and also, believe it or not, a graduate of law school as well, but don't ask him legal questions. And he has shown tremendous initiative in building the Hannah Arendt Center here. The two of them will have a discussion after the dance, and then the floor will be opened to you, members of the audience, to further the discussion. The reason is very unusual. Hannah Arendt, as many of you know, was a distinguished political theorist and writer who emigrated to the United States, fleeing the Nazis through Paris. And she was extremely prolific. Her famous works include a book in the early 50s on the origins of totalitarianism. She wrote a fabulous biography of a very important figure in Jewish life in early 19th century Europe, Rachel Varnhagen. And she wrote, most notoriously, a book on the Eichmann trial, which catapulted her into international fame, in a way. And toward the end of her career, she drifted more in the direction of pure philosophy and began a project which she left unfinished at her death called The Life of the Mind, which was then published in 2 volumes, edited by her literary executor, Mary McCarthy, who was a longtime member of this faculty in 2 iterations in the late 40s and later in the 80s. They became friends in New York. What's interesting about the connection with Hannah Arendt and the college is that Hannah Arendt's husband, Heinrich Blücher, became a professor of philosophy here in the early 50s. And he had a particular interest in art and aesthetics. He had come to the attention of Bard through his friendship with a group of New York artists, many of them abstract expressionists, who were active in the early 50s, who made the core of a discussion group which Heinrich Blücher was part of. And she became part of the Bard family and was very active here and friendly with members of the faculty and student body. And when Heinrich Blücher died in the late 60s, he was buried here. And when Hannah died in 75, it was her wish to be buried next to him in the Bard Cemetery. Her library, annotated library, is part of the Bard College Library. My last conversation with her, I was a student of hers in an earlier life, was really about aesthetics and about art. And she was terribly interested in the relation of language and art and politics and culture. Her husband had left some lectures on aesthetics, which are in the Bard Library, and her plan was to join the Bard faculty in the fall of 1976 and to work on the 3rd volume of The Life of the Mind, which was going to be on aesthetics, nominally based on Heinrich Blücher's lectures. So this is nothing that's arbitrary. Interesting, Bill T. Jones, later in life, after having choreographed the piece you're about to see, began to see a connection between his reading of Hannah Arendt, both The Life of the Mind and Men in Dark Times, the collection of essays based on her winning the Lessing Prize, which he read. So a retrospective connection between the thinking of Hannah Arendt and his own work as a great choreographer. It's a real honor to have him here as part of our faculty, and we are thrilled. So without further ado, the way this is going to work is there's to be the dance, and then the discussion between Roger and Bill, and then an open discussion with you. Please join me in welcoming Leah Cox, who will dance Floating the Tongue.
Phase 2. Begin parallel position, facing the front. Make a soft circle with the left hand and left arm facing the up space. And then bring the hand over to the top of the hand, maintaining that circle. Replace it down to the floor. Break the right arm at a 90-degree angle to the side of the body. Extend the fingertips down. Lift the sternum up and look forward, up at the up stage, up at the ceiling. Put the weight into the right foot. Step forward on the left foot. Pull the right heel back down. Replace the left foot next to the right foot. Tip the head to the left side and opening and then softening the knees until the head is facing the floor. Pelvis on the right. Extend both fingertips face back, palms edged up. Turn to the left and extend the fingertips down facing the ground. Externally rotate the right hand and soften, stand up to the side, lifting the right scapula to make a quarter turn spiral with the upper body. Put the weight to the right foot. Extend the left side of the left back into a lunge, and then unwind the left body so it stays in the back. Extend the left toes along the ground. Extend the left fingertips parallel to that left diagonal. Rotate to the front, expanding both arms. Put the left toes on the floor. Put the left ball of the foot on the floor. Put the pelvis rotated forward, and then lift the arms in forward, back. With the left arm, put the weight to the left heel. Put the right until the right arm, the right leg, flip it down. Shift the weight into the left, right toes. Use the left scapula, extend up. Put the weight into both feet. Extend the right heel. Push the pelvis to the right side. Extend the left fingertips on the left diagonal. The right fingertips on the right diagonal. Drop the arm with the right end. Trace the fingertips, point the index finger towards the rib. Untrace that into the hip and extend the right fingertips out along the top diagonal again. Phase 3. Frame the face, and then the architecture of the spine. Something about first coming in, I see the light. Step forward, nothing else, nothing else, nothing else, nothing else. And then I tip down to the side. This is a more comfortable position because I don't have to look at the audience. Rotate forward, rotate around, extend it back, extend like it's carefully, like I have a little dress on it, and it's getting that reminds me of Emily Mayor's piece. And then there were some problems about come out, down, inside, eat, open, down, open wide, like a mouth, and then sort of Phase 4. Purposeful, a little bit nervous right now. Exit sign says no. I'm not symmetry with the knees and the elbows right now, and I have to replace my elbows to the spine. Catch it. Is it God? No. It's just me, step forward. I think this is my good success, and I have to keep going on what I'm doing. It's very, very dogged work. I do not like to do this. I felt good right then. And then looking for anything. That would be something like divine inspiration. Would that be with a fearless leader and the You don't say big things and act, but dang, I would not talk about a big dick right there. And point off for me, point off for you, pointing to the body part, knee, shin, thigh, abdomen, nowhere. Hurt, pain in the left hand. That's the syllabus. Phase 1. Phase 2. Parallel position facing down stage, right diagonal. Let's reverse forward, circle to the right, to the side, and then to the back. Soften the knees, soften the pelvis until they're soften the knees. Circle the left toes to the side, to the back, and then return them driving along the floor to meet the right toes and extend them straight to the side, shifting the weight into the right foot, and then lunging forward, slide the left fingertips down to the parallel to the floor. Curl the fingers and make a point, shift the weight into the left foot, drag the right foot in, point the toes of the right toe of the right foot, and then drag it up to the right knee. Put it back down again, extend the left toes down to the floor, replace the left hand on the outside of the left leg, swing the right arm forward, draw the circumference around the right knee, grab the right thigh, shift the weight into the left foot, keeping the leg straight, draw the right toes out in a rotated position, circle the right fingertips until they're the inside of the right thigh, and grab the thigh again, bend the left knee out, extend the right toes to the back and the right arm along the right leg, and extend the head toward the ceiling, rotate the right toes and fingertips until they reach the side to the ground. Look back, pull the right fingertips, pull the right knee until the right toes meet the right fingertips, drag the left foot in, put the right toes out and shift the weight through the right knee until the ball of the foot, drag the left foot in again, internally rotate the right foot, put the heel on the ground, soften the pelvis and softly roll up through the spine, pulling the pubic bone forward as you trace the left fingertips up to the navel and extend the right fingertips back, looking on the downstage. On that diagonal, right the pelvis, curl the fingertips of the left hand until they are facing upward, meet the right fingertips, left fingertips look down, turn the palms down and face the toes, return them to face upward again, then break the knees, pull the spine down, ripple through the spine, articulating through the sternum, look straight ahead, then turn the head 90 degrees to the left. Phase 3. Circumnavigate my own pelvis, moving down, stretching forward, beaten dog, beaten dog, beaten dog, beaten dog, beaten dog, beaten dog. Circle the left toes, moving around, take feet, keep going, a sense of I forgot where I was going. Lift like a stitch, and then drop, place, a sense of matter of factness, left knee still hurts, and then pull in, extending down, not so as an annoying pain in my ass, and then moving down, shifting forward like a dinosaur, something dinosaur about that, the hollowness, the sound, and I like that sound. I'm not often on the stage anymore, and I say a sense of reverence, a sense of giving. If this was the Buddha, he would say it like this, but I said, oops. Phase 4. Seeing the exit sign, drawing the sternum near and then far away from it, imagining what is behind me and saying it is drawing me forward, and then there's a sense of yes, a sense of reverence, my dear sir, so many dear sirs, and what if we were a woman stitching, beating, I show you my ass now, and then I get back down, and I get back down, and I say, circle the globe, the globe is, you have to circle the globe anymore to be stitching, one queen at a time. I see a Chinaman, I see a Jew, I see an everybody, you can't say anyone's name anymore. Is Jew even a racial slur? It seems to me you can't call anyone what they are anymore. Before you've already insulted them, I don't know how to even talk about myself. A sense of the string in them. Planting seeds, share talking, James Fraser, new head of ADF, what does that mean for all of us? It means something right there. It means something high and low. And who even knows in this audience what is ADF? And I see 1, 2, 3 purple people. Purple people are who Veronica, the girl in Willy Wonka becomes when she drinks food. I am a fat woman said, oh, yes, something about the fat people. And fist, red shirt, black, that's it. Phase 1. 2, parallel, facing the audience. Break the knees, pull the tailbone down, pull through the spine until the head reaches toward the shoulder, the hands sequentially up, straighten the knees and rolling through the spine. Break the knees again, pull the tailbone down, pull the head until it reaches toward the floor, and then carving the curved shape of those hands, fingertips facing in, palms up, stand up to upright position one more time. Break the knees, pull the sits bones down, pull the tail down. Sequentially rotate through the spine, turn the right fingertips to the outside of the left knee, left fingertips to the outside of the right knee. Swing the right finger, left fingertips until they meet the back of the left knee. Put the weight into the right foot, quarter turn, face the right, slide the left hand down until it leaves the left ankle, slide it back up and into the back of the left knee to hollow, and then shift back to the front. Put the weight into the right foot, lift the left knee up, pointing the toes with the hands, and then drop it down, sit into the right foot. Allow the upper spine, the upper body to hinge until the back of the fingertips face the floor. Lock the knee, put the elbows up, lock the elbows, put the knee down, slide the left toes, right toes, knee, the left toes, inward rotate the left knee, put the left knee beside the right. Spread the right fingertips across the left body side. Extend the left fingertips a foot away. Put the weight into the back of the fingers and slide the lower body to face the front. And then thread the right fingertips to the back, circle them around, face the front. A soft fist is formed in a curve shape. Left hand soft fist curve to make the curve shape. Put the weight into the left shin. Open the right shin to face the quarter turn. Drag the left shin in. Then open the right rib shift. Open the left rib shift. And then open the right ribs again. Right ribs again. Circle the head to the left, to the up, to the back, to the right. Come back in, drop the elbows, swing to the back. Palms turn to face the front. Put the right palm on the right shin, on the right thigh. Extend the left toe, fingertips. Make an index finger point. Draw a line along the floor until it reaches the knee, and put the left hand on the left knee pad. Phase 3. Great fall, rebirth, Legos. Great fall, a sense of falling in, earthquake in Japan, and then ruined Franklin right feeling it. I took a little fashion show right here, sliding up, sliding down, and then lifting the knee up, with a sense of imminent domain as I crumble to the ground. And it is like that King Kong, and there's something so poignant right about that, right about the King Kong and push, like an 8, like the beast of the art, opening and seeing, engaging something in the front, not quite a fist, not quite angry, just something endurance, and I'm driving it. It's like I'm a suburban mom, and I'm up there, I feel like a suburban mom, and I'm not sure if everyone is my kid right now, and I hear little things, and then I say, oh, my very, I like the idea of having more hair. I don't have any hair. When I was young, my grandmother would not let us. She was Ukrainian. She had a very abusive father, and it was like, no pretty ladies for us. Why no pretty ladies? Why no pretty ladies for us? Why no pretty ladies? And I said, but I'll show you my leg, young man. I'll show you my leg. And he's like, oh, no, did you know, my pretties, in a sense of how do things crumble and a feeling of the spine, and I like this way, and it reminds me of something in Janet Wong's phrase, a sense of chapel dance I used to do, but I don't do it anymore. And then I open and I curve, and I once again see this idea of driving, my life is passion before me, driving, my life is passion before me, driving my life, and I like the feeling of rolling, and it seems very sensual to do this, although it used to just be a modern dance move, and it's 1, 2, 3, and then I say, there's where I am, that is the time when I see tape on the floor, the ground floor, and my bride in the white dress, flowers. Phase 4. If everything could crumble in the building a sense, I just want everything to ripple down, fall, crumble, 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 crumble. And a cookie crumble is what we probably all ate at Thanksgiving dinner. And everyone ate a little too much and said, oh my goodness, a hot cold. So they used to make the Buddha dough, right? They used to make the Buddha dough under extreme pressure. And many people are not Buddhas, and they go under extreme pressure. What is going on in Guantanamo Bay? Why am I talking like a news ad and there's no news anymore? Like a Muhammad Ali Bunny. Strike like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Strike like a butterfly, sting like a bee. And strike like a bee, like surf like a bee, like little black skirts, like black and white, like the panels on the floor, like architecture, like it is nice to have a body and it is nice to move. And I would personally probably feel like I'm hungry as a piece today, now I probably should, because I feel hot.